This is the One Girl Revolution podcast, a podcast that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls across the country. We hope that these stories inspire you, but even more so, we hope that these stories help you to see your own value, your purpose, and your power to change the world through your life. Every woman and girl is a One Girl Revolution. On this week's episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, we don't just have one girl, we have two beautiful ladies who are on this podcast. I don't know if I've ever had two guests on this podcast. Usually it's just one. I think I have had a couple of people on before, but this is such a special episode and I'm so excited and grateful to bring it to you. Today on the podcast, we have Joanne Ewald, founder of Mend on the Move, and the executive director of Mend on the Move, Sam Seelhoff. I love this episode for so many reasons, especially because we talk about the incredible mission of Mend on the Move. But it was cool to have the founder of a nonprofit on with the woman who is now at the helm continuing the mission. As you'll hear in this episode, Joanne founded Mend on the Move to help other survivors like herself find freedom and purpose and employment. She has stepped back and now Sam is leading the charge. So it's cool to hear them speak together about the incredible mission of Mend on the Move and share their individual stories. Mend on the Move is a 501c3 nonprofit social enterprise that employs survivors of abuse in Metro Detroit to create jewelry which provides them with an income while they're in recovery. Their jewelry is crafted from salvaged auto parts and car seat leather, symbolic of their commitment to serve women locally throughout Metro Detroit. I absolutely love Mend on the Move, their mission, and these two incredible women. You don't want to miss this one. Oh, and go buy some Mend on the Move products today. Here's my conversation with Joanne and Sam. Sam and Joanne, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
we're excited to be here.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here together.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I'm so glad that the three of us made it work out because I know it's already difficult balancing, one or two people's schedules, but I'm grateful that you both made it work and we get to sit here and talk about the founding of Mend on the Move and now talking about Sam kind of taking the reins and where we go from here. And Joanne, you and I met a couple of years ago when I'd started One Girl Revolution and I was doing some videos as well as podcasts, but I never had you on the podcast. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast here. And Sam, I'm so excited to have you on. So before we get into Mend on the Move and all of the great work that you're both doing through Mend on the Move, Joanne, I would love to start with you. I know that there's a really personal aspect to Mend on the Move, why you started it. And I would love to just hear a little bit about your own life, your own journey, if we could rewind for a minute.
Sure. Well, Mend, of course, is all about survivors of abuse. That was really the reason why Mend is in existence because of my own story. And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse, which started when I was age 4 to 13. And I didn't really heal until my adulthood. I didn't even begin to start facing it until my 30s. And my 40s is really when the real healing began. So that's really half of my life, actually. Keeping a secret was really the catalyst for me starting Mend. It was just the beginnings.
Yeah, well, and even through Mend, you've been able to help so many others find freedom and be able to use their voice and find their stories. And there's a healing that comes with that. I'm a big believer in women, especially knowing how to use their voices, how to tell their stories. And we had a documentary a couple of years ago, The Girl Inside, and we interviewed incarcerated women at Cook County Jail. And this incredible professor started this course, and it was called Storytelling as a Healing Art. And I think about Mend in that way, that, really, how can we move beyond something that's happened to us or something that we've done in some of the cases of these women at Cook County Jail, if you don't know how to talk about it, if you don't know how to share your story, and there's a freedom in that. And so I really see that in the great work that you're doing with Mend.
I think you're right, hit it right on, is that storytelling is healing. And that how do people out there who are in the midst of abuse know how to deal with it if we don't tell our stories. And they don't see hope at the end, like someone who's gone through it and healed from it. And I guess that's the importance of what I want to share is that there is hope in healing from abuse of all kinds. There's hope and it can be done.
Sam, I want to go over to you, but before we do, Joanne, I want to know like about the spark moment of Mend when you were like, hey, I want to start something. You know, I have this idea. I know that it's grown and evolved through the years, but how did you get the idea for Mend and what was that spark moment?
Well, gosh, it all really began with the healing process. Not only was I just really starting to attend to all the, I guess, memories that were not so good, but I was also starting to attend and to explore parts of me that were hidden that I didn't even know existed, talents that I had that I didn't know existed. And that was what I found out through the creative process. I started exploring art, and I was always attracted to artists and the whole creative process, but I never dove in myself. And as part of the healing process, I started seeing myself do that. I gravitated to doing a lot of collage work, and I started gravitating to jewelry specifically. And then not only that, but I started gravitating to creating something new from old things. Like I was really attracted to taking scraps and making them new again through jewelry making. And then I started thinking, okay, if I'm finding so much therapy and healing from creating in this way, wouldn't other women who are, kind of suffering and going through the same thing that I've gone through, wouldn't they benefit from this as well? And really, that was the spark that got me started to think that we could use jewelry making for women to not only heal, but to help themselves to heal.
There's something so therapeutic too about using your hands to create something, to make something beautiful.
Yes.
And even as you're contemplating, I find that even in art or gardening or painting, everybody kind of has their thing, but there's something therapeutic about just doing something with your hands and thinking about your story or thinking about things that you're experiencing in your own life. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah, for sure.
Sam, I want to go over to you. So this podcast is all about women's stories and how they get to where they are and how they get involved. I'm so curious about your own journey. So I'd love to rewind and just hear a little bit about your own story and then how you got connected to Mend on the Move.
Yeah. So as long as I can remember, even when I was younger, my mom found this book that I wrote in 5th grade, like a little, what do you want to be when you get older? And it was a social worker or a child psychologist. I didn't quite make it that far, but I was always drawn to the helping field. So before Mend, I worked for about 10 years in the child welfare system. So I worked with women who had lost their children to the foster care system. And in turn, I worked with those children who had been through abuse and neglect. So I worked for that for 10 years and I met so many different families with different stories, children and mothers included, abuse stories. So it just drove me to keep going. Fast forward 2020, COVID hit. So I had 2 little ones at home, 4 and I think 8 months at the time. So here I am as a virtual kindergarten teacher now, basically with my son. So I had to leave work. It hurt my heart because it's a big part of me, the child welfare, working with those children and families, but I just knew it was the right time. So when it came time to go back to work, I wanted to keep going. And from all the women I met that were in the system, that were in the child welfare system, I realized that maybe I'm not ready to work with kids again right now, but I would love to work with adults. So I really started just searching for a job that fit where I was. And I found Mend and I applied, but I didn't hear anything back for a second. So I sent a direct message. I said, listen, this is so cool. I read all about the program. I went to their website. I was so amazed because I had referred so many women to different services like therapy, support groups, counseling, and I just never seen an actual work program that was for survivors, that was so focused on healing. And so I applied, but the position I applied for was a human services coordinator. So what I did with Mend first, for probably about the first 6 or 7 months before I switched over to director, was I would run the support groups, which we call our sister circle here, which is a time to share their stories, or it just depends on that week what they need to talk about.
Right.
And whether it be an activity or just a conversation. So I did that for a while. Joanne had this great idea for Mend, for the More Mending program, which then involved like a relief fund for the women. It involved so many other components that I helped Joanne, and I really helped build that together.
Yes.
And then when it came time for Joanne to, I don't even know what you call it. You didn't retire because you're still doing the work.
Step down or just step out of the picture a little bit like this.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was.
She approached me about being the director, and I said, that's you, that's your Mend. And it really just evolved many conversations about what that would look like, and that we felt connected to each other, I would say, in a way. And so here I am, the director. I've been here total 2 years now. So I love it. And yeah.
And she's doing a great job. And, you know, just having somebody who already knows the makers that are here, and they love her, they felt comfortable with her. That gave me great comfort in stepping down and saying, Mend is in good hands now.
Thanks.
So, yeah, it's true.
That aspect of the story is so important too, because you see so many different organizations or companies where the founder doesn't want to step back because they can't find that person, or they can't find somebody that they feel like just fits into the fold and is just another one of the team and another part of the sisterhood, really, in this case. And that's really incredible that Sam was there and had worked with everyone at Mend, and then just it was a natural kind of progression. And it's great too, Joanne, that you're still a part of it, and I know you're still doing so much for Mend, but you know, it's kind of cool to see the evolution, I'm sure, from your perspective, where it's like, all right, here's Sam, go on, Sam, take the reins and let's keep going.
Right. And you know what? She needs to make it her own. And I recognized that I had taken Mend as far as I could. And it was time for a different leader to step in and make it different. I wasn't saying, oh, Mend has to stay the way it is. I really felt it needed more of a youthful leader and somebody who could take it to a different level than what I was able to do. So I was really so happy with the whole transition.
Well, I have loved watching everything on social media and following along the journey of Mend on the Move. And I know there are so many great things to come. But Sam, I'll ask you this question, since you're at the helm right now. For somebody who's listening who doesn't know about Mend on the Move, I know each of you mentioned kind of different aspects of the work that you do. But what is Mend on the Move for somebody who's hearing about it the first time? And tell me about some of the different programming and all the different projects you have going on.
So the survivors that come to Mend have been through some type of trauma in their life. So I think some people do get it confused. I've noticed at shows that we've been asked if we're a shelter, or we've been asked if we're rescuing women out of different situations. But if women have come here, from my experience and way before in your experience, from different areas. I mean, Joanne mentioned that her abuse stemmed from her childhood.
Right.
And it wasn't till later in life that she addressed it. So I've seen that that's some of the cases for the women here today. And some of them may just be coming out of a difficult relationship or abusive situation. So I like to say there's a seat at the table for everybody. And it's really not based on any type of economic status or social status or even education level, because we have women of all different backgrounds that come. I'm looking ahead at our table, and it's one big table in the middle of a room where they sit together during the day. So as Joanne has mentioned, the creative process itself is healing. But really, over the last couple of years, I've noticed the community aspect of it is the biggest piece. Yes. We have our sister circles, our support groups regularly, but really it's every day. There's multiple days a week where we have tears flowing, good or difficult. We have women saying, I had this therapy session this morning. I just need to vent about it. I need to talk about it. And I think the beauty of Mend is that everyone is coming with a story. And while they're different, they can all relate to each other that
for sure
been through something. So it is a paid work program. Yes. So it is a way for women to be employed and have accountability as well. But the community piece of it, the social work aspect of it it's really nothing I've ever seen before. Like I was saying before I came to Mend, it's a beautiful place to be. I love being here myself as the director, but everyone, they're sisters.
Yes,
everyone's family here.
They are connected for sure.
Yeah. And of course they make cool jewelry.
And and they're making something that is empowering.
Yeah.
I mean, they're making these beautiful pieces of jewelry from scrap, just, and they're these pieces are being sold to people who love their work. It's so empowering.
It is.
Everything is so beautiful for Men on the Move. Every time I see you guys out and about at, a different pop-up shop or look online at your website, I encourage everybody to look at your website and buy products. I always try to keep a couple of men products around so I can always give them as like gifts if I ever get somebody's birthday or something.
Yeah, I always put a few away and I'm like, always pull one out. They're the
so
perfect gift,
Oh, they are. And then I was at an event a couple of weeks ago for Mercy High School, and they had one of your bags there as well as like a couple of other items. And I was like, all of my tickets were going in that because it's just such beautiful, so many beautiful products. And we're all supporting these women and your continued efforts. So I just encourage everybody to buy all the products they can and really support your great work because it's so beautiful, all the things that you have going on.
Thank you so much.
Watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series featuring the girl inside and in tandem on our website or on our YouTube channel today. Check out onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com today. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel for our documentaries, videos, and podcast episodes. Joanne, I'd love for you to talk about how you guys get connected to the different women. I'm sure it's a whole lot of different ways that the women that you end up serving come to you, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Well, originally we were connecting with women in a very different way. When my original vision for the program was that we were going to go to women who were in recovery programs, and a lot of them did not have transportation. So we had a mobile studio, and we would drive the mobile studio to the recovery home, and the women would come out and work in the studio. That was the original vision for Men. And we found, through trial and error that wasn't really sustainable. And while it was great for that time, like new programs, they have to evolve and change to fit the needs of the people we're serving, which is what we determined we needed to do. And now we stepped away from just working with recovery programs and working with the people that they have chosen that are there. And we determined the best thing for us is really for us to be able to choose our workers, so that now that we actually, I say we as if I'm still a part of Men. Do you notice that?
She is.
I don't. I'm still
Okay.
in that we mode. I can't extract from that. I still say we, but it's So women come from a variety of different places. It's we apply. We put out ads for women to apply, and Sam, you can speak more on this too. But they're not just associated with a program. They are survivors who apply to fill out an application or are interviewed and go through the interview process. And we determine if they're the right fit for Men.
And we're actually looking to bring another woman in now. So there is a post on LinkedIn and our social media director. She'll put things online, but we have a seat at the table for somebody. And what we do is we posted it, but we also look within our network. So if any of the women here may know someone in their life, whether it be through church or support organizations or other avenues, they're welcome to recommend somebody that they think would be a good fit for the program. So there's really no one size fits all in how women hear about us. But I do want to put out there that we have a seat at our table, and we would love for somebody to even see this and contact me about working here and being part of our family here. So, yeah.
I will be sure to post that in our social media because we have such a great network of women who are doing incredible things, who I'm sure we all know people that could apply to that job, unfortunately, but also fortunately. So I will be sure to promote that. And I just love the work that you're doing. Sam, can you talk about some of the products? I know we've kind of talked about some of the things, but what are some of the products that these incredible women are making?
Yeah, so we make so many fun things. Of course, we use the salvaged auto parts, but we're also using leather as well. So you've talked about a bag that you recently saw at a fundraiser. So we make totes, we make wristlets and wallets. We make some of I call them the OG, the original Mend looking pieces, like Mend in the Motor City, where it's a little bit bolder, a little bit. All of our stuff has that industrial feel, but we also have things that are a little more dainty. So I have this very tiny sterling silver necklace on with a little aluminum part. And then we also I have some things next to me. We use copper, we use glass. So this is and I don't know how well you can see it, but it's glass inside of a copper ring. So
It's auto glass.
Windshield glass.
Windshield, like, windshield glass. I love that. And the leather is also auto.
It's auto leather.
It's car seat leather.
And we recently got more donations of vinyl too, for people who prefer a vinyl over a leather. So we're getting into that avenue. We use washers, we use copper, we use brake line, we use windshield wiper tubing, everything we're talking.
Show those cute earrings there.
These are
adorable.
So these are little washers, and then we added a fun glass aqua bead to them. So we add other elements into our auto to make it a little
more feminine.
And everything I talked about today is on our website. We have great photography of it. It's hard to see through video, but we make, I would say, styles for everybody. For the petite, for the bold, for the minimal, for the you like to wear 6 pieces at a time. We make it for everybody, which I
great layering pieces.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to see. Everything is designed in the studio. So I do want to make that clear too. We don't have an outside designer. We do have a creative director here who designs most of our pieces, but then other women at the table that may have had no design experience in the past come up with ideas as well. And I think that brings, I know from talking to them, it brings pride, it brings confidence, it brings accomplishment. So the design aspect also helps with, it's just a big part of the program.
Yeah.
So.
Well, everything that you just showed me is beautiful. And I know what I'm going to be doing after this interview, going on your website and buying all those products. And I will also be sure to get some photos from you so we can share on social media of some of those products that you just shared so that people can check them out and see the actual photos of them. But everything that you do is so unique and beautiful, and how empowering for these women too, to see the products that they've created or the products that they've made. It's really empowering.
Yeah, that we love to come back from a vendor show or even just a good sales day online. And I'm like, they loved this piece. They raved about it. And I'll make sure to come back and tell all the little details and really the stories that we get at shows of women.
Oh my gosh.
I would say at least 1 or 2 women come up to our table, and we tell them, obviously show them the jewelry, but tell them what we're doing and why we're doing it, and get very emotional because they have their own story. And I think that just shows there's so many women and men out there that have experienced abuse that
can relate to it. Like I remember being at one show, I think I told you this, Sam. It was at Easter Market because we do that one regularly in the summer. And I was serving a customer, but I saw out of the corner of my eye this woman standing and staring at our sign. And I'll probably get a little emotional when I talk about this, but she was crying. And she just had tears running down her face. And I just kind of looked at her, and I was with a customer. She came up to the table, and she handed me a $10 bill. And she said, I can't afford anything today, but I just want you to have this, and I'll be back to get something in the future. And I was stunned. And I think to myself after, why didn't I give her a piece of jewelry? What was I thinking? But I was so caught back by just her emotion. And it just blew me away. And so she was gone in a flash. It was so quick. But that's kind of the encounters that we have at these shows. It's so personal and just so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the power. It's the power of
we have these here.
I put these here.
I know. Oh my gosh. I can't do with us without a tear here and there.
Well,
it's
crazy.
Yeah. Same. I'm sitting here. I muted myself because I was getting
is 150% into this,
Yeah. Well, it is the power of women sharing their stories. Anybody sharing their stories, but I just have such a heart for women's stories, as I know both of you do. And it's the power of one woman stepping forward and saying, this is my story. This is what happened to me. And this is what I'm doing. That power has a ripple effect. And that's what this podcast is all about, getting women to share their stories and encouraging other women to get involved in organizations like yours, to say like, okay, maybe you don't have abuse in your background, but we all can do something to support these causes and to support our sisters.
Right. Absolutely.
So knowing that this podcast is all about stories, and I know you just shared one there, Joanne, of someone who came up to the booth and was really impacted by the work that you do, but I would love to hear from each of you, maybe a story or two of someone that's been helped through Mend. And it's kind of cool that we have Joanne from the beginning of Mend, and then Sam, you're kind of coming in with the second chapter. I kind of love this conversation.
Right.
So Joanne, maybe I'll start with you. If there's someone that you really feel like embodies the power of the work that you're doing.
Well, there's one person in particular that really was there at the beginning with me. And when I started Mend, and a fellow survivor, and she kind of was in and out of the Mend story for a while, at least working hands-on at Mend, but was always supporting Mend, even when the time she wasn't a part of it. She's back with Mend and she's actually creative director.
Mm-hmm.
And I just look at her and her growth and how far she's come, and I'm blown away. She's just, I feel like the poster child for Mend, and just what's possible, and just taking creativity and taking it to another level is what she's done. Actually, she has single-handedly made Mend what it is today as far as the design and the look of Mend, because I didn't know what I was doing. I started out, I play with design, and she is just a pro. And so she's taken Mend to another level in that way. But I think the other thing why this resonates with me is another important aspect of Mend is that we want our survivors to become leaders so that they can lead other women forward, and that's what I feel like she's done. She's been a leader to show other survivors, hey, I was in your shoes. I was a beginner. I started here, and look where I've come, and you can do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So to see our survivors become leaders is exactly what we want. So that's one. And then I also have, like, out of the blue, I'll have a survivor. Last year, I had a survivor contact me, and this is when we were working as far back as the recovery homes. And it was a survivor suffering also from an addiction problem. And she contacted me and she said, hey, I'm so excited. I'm getting married, and I'm so grateful to you and the other women who believed in me and stayed with me and helped me be where I am today. And I really want you to come to we're having an outdoor barbecue after the wedding, and I'd love for you to come and be a part of the celebration. And as it turned out, I was going on vacation at that time and I couldn't attend, but she sent me a picture later of her in the backyard cutting her wedding cake at this barbecue. And it just melted my heart and made me realize that, gosh, this is what Mend is all about. This is the good stuff right here. When I see them take back their lives like that.
Mm-hmm.
You must both have moments all the time where you feel like a proud mama, like your kid did it. They did it. Like they've pulled themselves out of this situation that they were in, and just so proud to see them continue on.
Yeah. It's not all. I have to tell you, a lot of times I would be interviewed over the years, and especially at the beginning by the media, and they'd always want, tell us your success stories, tell your success stories. And at the very beginning, I have to tell you, there were not that many success stories. And I was working a lot with women who are suffering from addiction as well as abuse, which compounds the issue even more so, right? It's just, to battle both is just a challenge. And I saw more often than not women going back to their old lives again and again. And it wasn't pretty. And it certainly wasn't the story that people wanted to hear, but you don't give up on that. You keep hopeful, and you realize that this is reality. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not a fairy tale ending a lot of the times, but it doesn't mean you give up. You just keep going, right? You keep working at this for the people that do make it to the other side.
It's life, right? Life is full of many chapters, and all of us have moments in life where it's like sometimes you feel like you're stepping back into an old habit or an old life. And I'm sure it can be really difficult to also see that. So I'm glad you brought that up, that it's not all fairy tales. Life isn't all fairy tales. There are beautiful moments in life. Yeah,
it's certainly not reality, and people need to know that. Mm-hmm. And I think also for survivors out there who do stumble and fall and go back, they have to recognize that they're not alone in that. Mm-hmm. There's so many other survivors who do that too. And that's okay. That's part of the healing process. And just get back up and try again. They say the average person who's suffering from abuse or from addiction, that it takes 7 times of falling before they can actually recover permanently from addiction. 7 times. So I saw many of those falls, and it was hard, but I'm just grateful for the ones that do make it.
Sam, what about you? Let's go back to the stories. I know there are probably many going through your mind right now because Mend has had so many stories through the years, but is there a story or two you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough. I've only been here for 2 years, but a couple of the women really started around the same time as me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I saw them at day one to now, and I'll get emotional too.
Oh, and I just thought of the
yes.
another one too that is just amazing. Yeah, we have some great workers with us right now.
Yeah, just thinking back to day one of a couple of them, hard for them to share anything at the table without, I mean, we all cry. I'm doing it right now. That's very normal and very
Crying
healthy. It's great.
It's a qualification to work at Mend. No,
but I think like
we all cry.
Joanne had said about our design director as she started with Mend, and now she's the director here at Mend. But there's also other women in the program that have moved into other positions as well.
Yes.
So in particular, one stands out in my mind. Very, very traumatic situation that she went through. I won't say any details, but it was very difficult, and it took a lot of strength for her to come in the door to Mend. It was that traumatic, and just seeing her growth over the years. Over the 2 years is amazing, to the point where before her trauma, she had a background in social work as well.
Yeah.
She worked with many people, very educated, masters. Like I said, anyone can experience trauma.
It's not, abuse does not discriminate.
It does not. So to the point where she is 2 years later today, she's now running our support groups as the lead. She's now working one-on-one with some of the women. We had someone new come in a while back, and she was the one that welcomed them in. She was the one that helped them get their seat at the table. And just to think back to the day that she walked in, or the days after, I get emotional because she's just a wonderful person. And I knew, based on what she did in the past, that her strength and her desire to help others was there, but she needed to help herself first again.
Yes.
And she's really there. And trauma and healing is lifelong. Right. It
you
is.
You can't
lifelong.
snap your fingers and say, I'm over it, because it will be a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm. But we've been able to connect people. We just had a woman graduate from our program. So the idea is now that you'll stay here for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you'll go on to your next chapter of life. So while she graduated, she was in a great place, but we connected her with a therapist that she's going to continue on with. So she has that piece to take with her to continue her healing. So just the stories of growth, I could tell more, but
and there's another survivor that we have right now that's also grown into a leader position. There's 3 survivors that work with us right now that are actually evolved from the program and have become leaders.
And I'll tell you, with the one she's speaking of, she does a lot of our ordering, our finances, budgets. I would crumble without her. So, I mean, it's just the strength that she brings, and to know that she came in as a maker a few years ago, and just to see where she is, she's really
blossomed,
really pillar in this program. So it's amazing.
So that speaks volumes, I think.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, when is the Mend on the Move book coming out? I feel like you have all of these incredible stories that I feel like needs to be turned into a book one day.
Well, that's so funny that you said that. I'm actually working on my story right now, and really just jumped right into it after I left Mend. I felt like that felt like the most natural transition for me, is to be able to share all that I had encountered in the last 10 or so years. I mean, I really started the whole process of trying to get Mend on the Move off the ground in 2013. And I left in 2023. So it was about a 10-year process. And I have a lot to share, you're right. And so I am trying to put together, I actually have written my manuscript, but I'm trying to find a publisher. That's the biggest challenge. It's easy to write the story, but then how do you get it published? That's the big transition. So I'm working on that, but really the whole premise to my story is that the working title is A Life Repurposed, how appropriate given our repurposed jewelry. And then the subtitle is Reimagining All That Is Held Hidden. And that is really what I want survivors to understand, is that all the things that we hold hidden are those terrible memories, especially I remember mine, and we hold hidden for so long, which for me, it was half my life. Those are things that we can actually use that to give value to our lives, to really help us to live meaningful and authentic lives. I didn't realize those things that I tried so hard to bury really were also burying other things, my creative process, the creative abilities and talents. Those were also buried with all the other stuff that I was so ashamed to disclose. And I want other survivors to understand that when you just take care of attending to those memories, those difficult things, that you will blossom into your true and authentic and life that you are meant to live. I'm speaking from experience, and I know the value of that.
Well, I can't wait to read your book.
That's what I'm trying to do in a nutshell.
I love it. And I can't wait to read your book. And I actually didn't know you were working on a book. So I totally, I guess,
Isn't
read
that
your
crazy?
mind.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I have a website, and I'm getting started with social media, which I hate, but I have somebody helping me with that. But I'm just really trying to get my story out there. And it's not even, the end game is not my book. It's really about just continuing the journey of helping survivors in whatever way I can. And right now I can do that by sharing my story.
It's what I said earlier. It's when one woman stands up and shares her story, it just has the power to unlock so many other women's shackles to share their own stories and their own journeys. And so I will be sure to be your biggest promoter whenever your book comes out. And if we have anybody who's connected to a publisher who's listening, I know that we have a lot of a diverse audience. So there are a lot of people that could be helpful. So if anybody could be helpful in that realm, but I will be sure to keep tabs on that. And Joanne, anything that we can do to promote it, we'll be here to do that. If you want to be a part of the revolution and support the work we're doing to uplift women's voices and their stories, please consider donating to our 501c3 nonprofit organization. Every single dollar goes right back into the work that we're doing and will allow us to tell even more stories of inspiring women and girls to inspire and empower the next generation. Donate today at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com. Sam, let's go to you. What's next for you and Mend on the Move? What are some things you have on the horizon?
Well, my biggest priority right now is bringing someone else in. So the growth of the women that we serve is always going to be number one to me. I'm glad that you had us on today, because a goal of mine has been to get out there more to our community, get more eyes on us. And so even being on your platform is going to help us that much more, to get more people involved, to get more people to know what we are, whether it be they just shop our jewelry or donate, which is how we stay afloat.
Yes.
So just getting out there more, doing more speaking events, doing more vendor shows, and being present in the studio with more women, and just getting creative as we go, even down to the designs, keeping an eye on some of the trends, but giving a men twist to keep our sales thriving. And my wheels are always turning, and I'm just forever grateful to Joanne for giving me this opportunity. I love it here. The mission is important to me. And I haven't been very open. I have my own story that I really haven't shared, and which is kind of ironic that I'm, but it takes time. It takes time, and it takes strength, and I have it in me, just like the women here at Mend. So my goal is to be more open about myself as well, to help others. So I think I have a lot of goals, and I have a lot of belief in this program. I think it'll be around for years to come. And like I said, number one is to get someone else in here that we can provide everything we can provide to now for whoever's ready.
And I think a lot of times, I wanted to piggyback on that a little bit. I think a lot of times I've heard people say, oh, professionals should keep their stories to themselves. That's their job, is not to share, but to, and I can see that like in a therapeutic setting. Yeah. Thank you. I was trying to find the right word, where you are doing one-on-one therapy. But I think in this particular setting, like if I never shared my story, how could people that are working for me relate to me? How could they trust me? How could they begin to think that I would understand where they come from if I don't share? And also for them to see that abuse is like we talked about, doesn't discriminate. They may think, oh, you're from a totally different economical environment than I am from. How can you understand? But that is the one common bond we have, is that abuse doesn't discriminate. And we can all link arms in that, So I think as leaders, it's important to share in this environment.
I agree. And I think it's timing, right? So even Sam, like I think it's so beautiful that you're like, all right, when the time is right, I will share my
Mhm.
story. Or in certain settings, right? When you're
Yeah.
one-on-one with people. And I think we all can relate to that because we do see people, sometimes people overshare in their stories, or you can
Oh,
see
yeah.
people that are still processing things that they've gone through or something that's happened to them, and they're not speaking from an empowered place. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but I've started recognizing that, like, no, we should always be speaking from an empowered place in order to empower other people. That's when the real power force happens. So I think it's beautiful, even Sam, that you just shared that, getting people to think
Yes,
about
I
like
do too.
timing. Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I love her.
Well, Sam, I'm gonna be keeping tabs on you too. And like
Yeah.
anything that we can do to support the work that you're doing. I just love Mend on the Move so much. But I have a personal question kind of for both of you. If you could get to the very root, or each of you, if you could get to the very root of why you do what you do every single day. Joanne, I know that you've taken a little bit of a step back, but I know your heart is still so much in Mend and why
Yeah.
you care so deeply about sharing your story. But if you could each get to the root of why you do what you do every single day, especially on those hard days, those difficult days where maybe you see someone who's come through your program regress or go back to an old thing and it's really difficult. And you're like, why am I doing this? If you could get to the very root, what would you say that root is?
Oh my gosh, the very root is to provide hope. That is at the very root of it. And I mentioned a little earlier that, I was just at a conference last week, a writing conference, and I just actually posted this today, was that I have been thinking so much my end game is this book, that I want to get this book done, right? And that's, I can share my story through this book. But I was at this conference and this literary agent said, so many writers are focusing on that they want to get published, that once they get this, they just need to get their story out there to help other people. And she said, the thing is, you have everything you need right now, that you have access to podcasts, to blogs, to social media, to doing articles, things like what we're doing here today, that you can share your motivational message now. You don't need a book to do that. And it just really clicked with me, because I thought, really, what am I trying to do? What am I passionate about? Well, I am passionate about encouraging other survivors to live into the life that's really waiting for them. And what I did for so many years is just settled for a life that wasn't authentic. And I want survivors to learn from me that they don't have to do that. There is something waiting for them that's bigger. And so that's what I'm passionate about, is having survivors see that and recognize it and take those healing steps. And so I can do that now. I don't need to be a published author to do it. And that was kind of freeing for me to realize that, not put so much pressure on myself, that I'm just going to continue doing stuff like this and sharing my story and hope that something sticks with someone out there and that they can begin to heal like I did.
Yeah, I love that, Joanne. And I know you're going to make such an impact even getting into social media. And sometimes it's doing the scary thing, the thing that we're not comfortable with, but not holding ourselves back. And as you were sharing that story just about the book, and I've seen that in, with different people, like, oh, once I get published, then I can do the thing. Or in my experience with One Girl Revolution, when I started it, people's advice was, oh, raise 100 grand and then do the thing. I'm sure you got similar advice when you started Mend. And I was like, no, I'm just going to start it. I'm going to figure it out. And
Exactly.
I think
That is
that's
so
such an
true.
important lesson.
Yeah, it is. It is so. I have to learn it again and again. It seems.
Same.
It's like, because I did learn that with Mend, people it was the same sort of thing when I started Mend. It was, I had wait, and I just wanted to get in there and do it. Get it started.
Yeah. Well, you did it and you're doing it. And Sam, I want to know from you, if you could get to the very root of why you do what you do, what would you say that root is?
Yeah, I would say back to earlier, why I came here is because of all the women I worked with earlier on in the child welfare industry. A lot of the mothers that had either lost their children in foster care or had been a part of the system had been abused themselves as children. And it didn't seem like they really got the resources they needed to heal and to grow into a more healthier life. It is just the need. I've heard too many stories. Someone said to me recently at a show, it was the woman that runs the Art Experience, which is another great nonprofit.
Oh, yeah.
She said,
in Pontiac.
yeah, I was complimenting her art program was wonderful. And she said, yeah, it'd be great if none of us had to have jobs. So that really struck me. Mm-hmm. But it's just not the case. Reality is that abuse does happen in all shapes and forms. And there's always, like I said earlier, there's always a seat at the table for someone new here that's going through the journey. And I've seen this program work. So I'm encouraged by Joanne, what she started. I'm encouraged what I've seen in this program, and even the women that we've touched out at our shows. It's just so important to keep spreading the message and keep providing not only a place in our studio, but a voice.
Yeah, a voice for women.
Your voice, my voice, their voices.
Right.
For all other women that maybe aren't ready for a program like this or don't have access to it in their area, that there are resources, whether it be here or online, to help. And I just want to keep pushing that forward to women all over. So that's my why, I would say.
I just had a visual, Sam, as you were talking, of somebody who like bought a product, was wearing a necklace around, and even the power of that to be able to wear that around, and somebody's like, oh, where'd you get that from? And for us to be able to share that story, and you never know if somebody might have, like the story you shared, Joanne, somebody might have an experience where they've never shared their story before, or they never knew that something like MEND existed. We have the power to get involved and support the work that you're doing and make those ripple effects happen, and spread the word about the great work that you're doing, and empower other women just by simply buying and supporting your jewelry. And so that kind of gets me to the question of, what can we do to support your work? I know there are a lot of different ways that we can support your work, but also what can we do to get involved?
I would say the easiest way and the most fun is to shop. But not only shop to have nice jewelry, but like you said, you can wear it. And if someone asks you, wow, that's unique, where did you get it? You can tell the story to somebody else. You can gift it to others.
That's great. Gift it and share your
gifting and
what the
sharing.
gift is all about.
If you noticed, if you've ever, like you said, you've gotten our pieces before, there's always a story on the back of each piece. And I always make it a point at shows or whenever I'm talking that those messages are written by women in the studio. Those aren't Googled. Those aren't poems. Those are words from survivors. So that's why they make not only good things for yourself, but gifts, because it sends a message to others. Other ways to get involved is to donate, become a regular donor, or get involved in our fundraisers. We have our big golf outing coming up September 6th over here in Northville that we still have room for golfers and sponsors. So anybody that might be interested in that, it's a fun day, but it really does. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. It really is a push to keep us being able to do what we do. So volunteering, even we have volunteer options at times throughout the year. So there's a lot of things you could do to help our nonprofit, and really any nonprofit out there.
And then, sharing on social media, sharing about MEND. And also another great thing would be, we haven't done a lot of this, but we recently had a home party fundraiser, which was so successful.
Yeah.
And I think more of those sort of things would be great. It's more of they're private home parties, and you can invite your friends, and your friends can learn about MEND and do some shopping. That's a lot of fun.
That's
a great
so
way
cool.
to spread the message.
Yeah, bring a group of people together. That's amazing. Well, I'm so grateful to have had you both on the podcast. I can't wait to continue to follow everything that you're doing and support in any way that I possibly can. Joanne, I can't wait for your book. I know it's going to happen. I feel it in my bones, but
we'll see. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, I'm cool.
It's true. But before I let you both go, I always end this podcast on 2 questions. So I'd like to ask you. We'll start with the first question. You each individually are One Girl Revolutions. And I know that you're surrounded by One Girl Revolutions with everyone who's involved in MEND. But who is a One Girl Revolution in your life? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you? Sam, I'll start with you.
Oh, Sam. Okay.
I'll change it up.
Yes.
Well, you took my words, because I'm at MEND, and Joanne herself, from taking her pain into something beautiful that's helping other women. I know. So I could go on and on about Joanne, but if it's someone in my personal life outside of MEND, I would be crazy not to say my mom. Just having 2 kids in itself is a job. Worked her whole life, but my mom actually lost a baby before my brother and I. And she never really talked about it. And just the strength that she carried her whole life
Mhm.
And later, of course, we talked about it as mother and daughter, but just the strength that you have to move forward.
Yeah,
I
that's would crush
personally
you.
can't not imagine. So just, she's always my number one. She's always inspiring. And she's there. She's there for me. She's there for my kids. So mothers, grandmothers of all shapes,
Yeah.
love them. Love them
Yeah.
Love that. Joanne, what
Wow.
about you?
Well, for me, what really inspired me to do the work that I'm doing is Becca Stevens from Thistle Farms. And I don't know if you've heard of Thistle Farms. It's a social enterprise that is in Nashville, Tennessee, that works with survivors to create bath and body products and employs them to do that. And that was the beginning for me, realizing, hey, this is what I didn't even have a name for it. And when I learned social enterprise, I was like, that's what I want to do. That's the name for it. I want to be able to help women to help themselves. So to give them the power to help themselves. And that's really what these social enterprises do. It's not about a handout. It's about how can we help you do the work. And that's what I love about it. And Becca Stevens has done that for over 20 years and done it so beautifully and successfully through Thistle Farms. And I still am just such a huge fan and follow them. And she's, unlike me, she's stayed with Thistle Farms, but she still, gets the message out in other ways as well. But she's incredible.
Yeah, we love Becca
You know,
Stevens. And actually, I had her on the podcast a couple of months ago, and it took a while because she has so many things going on, but
Oh my
she's so
gosh.
incredible. And then another thing that I should have mentioned earlier is at One Girl Revolution, we always do a gift guide to give back. And so we've
Yeah.
always included Mend in that. We've always included Thistle Farms. There's so many great ways that we promote it during Christmas and, Mother's Day and different times that we know people are buying gifts, but it's a year-round thing, right? People have birthdays, people have celebrations. We just kind of came through graduation season, and that's all different ways or different reasons that people can buy Mend products or Thistle Farms and support these great social enterprises.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, they're wonderful. I love that too. Buying a gift that helps other people.
Yeah, give back. It's so important. So the last question that I always end on, and Joanne, I'll start with you this time. Give you a heads up. If you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
Maybe Sam should go first.
Pressure. I can go.
Yeah, you go first because I neglected to. I have to think about that one for a second.
Yeah, I think it's a good message. And again, a good message to myself that you don't feel you need to be silenced, because I feel women, and this is in general, do often get dismissed in areas, not only in their stories, but in other areas. So I have always I always end up in leadership positions, and it always surprises me because I'm just this little me. But I think it's because of my strength to push forward. So when you're feeling down or you're feeling you can't do something, push forward. And there's always, and maybe this will help you with your message because you have taught me this, it's never too late.
Oh, for sure.
It's never too late to share your story, but I carry that in anything in life. If you want to be an author, it's never too late. If you want to be, I don't know, anything.
A president,
it's never.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's never too late to at least push for your dreams or share your story, to keep moving forward and keep that strength and confidence that sometimes you have to dig deep from within.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm all about that whole sharing your story. Because for so long I was silent, is that you don't have to be ashamed of your story. Your stories, good or bad, are a part of who you are. And embracing even the negative parts of your story make you a better person. They help you to live more authentically. So never be ashamed of who you are, what stories you have, share them, and don't be silent. Like I think of myself as a child being abused and how I kept silent. So when you said this is for girls and for women, for girls, tell someone. If something's happening to you that is not right, tell someone. Don't be ashamed to tell someone. And I would say even to women too, there's so many women that keep silent. And there's power in sharing your story. And there's healing for sure.
Yes, it's so important, such an important message. Thank you both for all the incredible work that you do, Joanne and Sam. I'm so grateful to have had you on the podcast. I can't wait to continue to follow everything that you're each doing individually and then everything that Mend on the Move is doing. But Thank you both for being on the One Girl Revolution podcast. And thank you for all the incredible work that you do.
Gosh, thanks for having us.
Thank you
we
so much.
appreciate
This
it.
was fun. Thank you for giving us this platform. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to all of our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series, follow us on social media, donate to our nonprofit organization, and more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.